So we're here at Harris Island Sail Shop, talk about the macro versus the code. And I just learned that you've only ever ridden the macro.
It's true.
And Alex has only ever ridden the code. So I am curious to hear.
I didn't even realize Alex has ridden the code.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to hear your back and forth before my more official stance on the two boards. So, Alex, what do you think of the code? And Ryder, what do you think of the macro?
All right, well, one of the things I like about the code is it has a little bit of like a spine right here. So whenever you're starting to use your front foot to get up and out of the water, I feel like the water gets displaced. A little bit easier to just get up on foil. Also, you have some notches. What's the correct terminology?
Like little cutaways.
Little cutaways right towards the back, which also helps with the release of the board. So it makes it easier to get up on foil. This bad boy is pretty sick. Has the bevel rails here on the side, which allows you to get a little bit more float in. For a 5.4, I mean, it's 98 liters, 100 liters. It's a lot of liters for a 5.4 board. I used to have a 5.4 at F1, and that was 75 liters. So they're able to pack a lot of float into a small package. As for the macro, I mean, I've tried the 5.0 macro. It was it's fun. I like the code a little bit better because of the spine in the front. But other than that, both boards will do you just right.
Yeah, I guess I've only ridden the macro. I rode the macro 5.4. It was like, that one I think is 104. I think it's 104 liters.
Macro 5.4?
Yeah.
98. So the macro,
Okay.
so macro 5.4 and the 5.4 code are actually the exact same volume.
So yeah, it felt good. It was nice size for how compact it was. Yeah, I mean, I can't really speak to the code coming off the water quicker because I don't really know. I mean, this has a little double for sure, just not like a super pronounced one. And then the construction is also different, which is what, like, I feel like the macros are definitely a bit heavier.
They're a little heavier. The code,
Yeah.
I would say, is kind of surprisingly light.
Yeah,
For the
for
size?
sure. Yeah, definitely.
And this is kind of, I wouldn't call it heavy, but maybe like, it's honestly still lighter than a lot of what's out there.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
it's still kind of what you'd expect when someone says it's pretty light. If I hear like pretty light, we should actually get like the actual weight statistics on them. But I would say that is a pound or two lighter on the code. Like that code 5.4 is lighter than this macro 5.0.
Yeah, for sure. No, but it felt good. It was good. It was yeah, I've typically ridden boards that are a little longer, have a little bit more water line. It definitely feels different coming off onto foil and whatnot. But definitely packs a lot of volume into a smaller board, and yeah, in the school we've had, and durability on this puppy seems to be pretty good.
Yeah, I think the design goal on kind of both of them was to go as short as possible for the most amount of volume. Like there's some other boards out there in the market that are similar volumes. Like everybody for a given size might need to be on, say, about 100 liters if you weigh, maybe 185 pounds-ish. That's the amount of volume you want. But I know the code and the macro, relative to a lot of other boards in the market, are definitely shorter for that same amount of volume.
Yeah.
Which I find is nice because you need that volume to be buoyant. But once you're up on foil, really, that board size isn't really doing anything for you. If anything, it's hindering you to just more swing weight, catching more wind.
For
So
sure.
I find it's nice on either one of these because it's really hard to find. I don't know if there is another production board in the market that's a shorter length for the amount of volume in either one of these.
There is. We have it inside the shop.
There is. Okay.
Yeah.
So what board's that?
The AK Compact.
The AK Comp. And what's that one's volume you mentioned?
Well, in this video we're going to do in a minute here, we'll do that board compared to these boards. Bring it on out.
What is it? I'm curious. We'll plug it in.
I literally don't remember. All I know is it's a lot.
It's a lot of volume.
It's
a lot.
70. I think it's 78 liters for the 4.8, and it's 26 or 27 inches wide.
So it's really wide.
It's pretty wide, yeah.
One of the things.
So they put the more volume by increasing the width, I guess.
I say about because the thickness is pretty similar.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a stubbier shape. Can we talk about how much prettier the code is than the macro? I feel like that is like
You're not a red and white person.
I don't know, man. That has some carbon on it.
I don't
Like,
really
you see the
care,
carbon.
but I feel like this just looks prettier.
Is that carbon on the rails?
It's corduroy grip too. Which how do you guys feel about the corduroy versus the diamond?
Yeah, so I mean, I would say like the biggest, so the code is kind of the newer version of the macro, right? Like Cabrinha came out with the macros and they wanted to make some updates to it and they came out with the code. And I would say the biggest difference is obviously the board outline.
Yeah.
But then the pad, like you were saying, is a pretty big improvement in my eyes as well. I think the corduroy is, one, it's pretty soft, like it's actually like a little bit less dense, so it's nice and squishy. So when you're on your knees getting up, I think it's softer on your knees.
I would agree.
And when you are standing, I think you do have a little better traction with it. So I will admit I'm a fan of the corduroy over more of like the standard,
textile,
the standard grip. Yeah. And then if you look at the shape too, like, you know, that's a 5.4, this is a 5.0. Their tail size is almost the same. So I know, you know, the code, they really push a little bit more of that volume kind of forward in the nose.
Yeah.
Which I think does two things. One, it keeps the tail a little bit narrower. Again, these probably look to be about the same, but keep in mind that board's a higher volume, bigger board than this one with relatively the same tail size. So when you're on foil and you're turning hard, a little bit of a narrower board, you're not going to catch that rail as easily in the water. You're not going to put it in the water, especially if you're on a little bit of a shorter mast.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then I think having one, the straighter rail line does two things. It puts more volume in the nose, which helps when you're not standing to keep that, you know, the nose of the board from going under. So I think you'll feel that improvement on the code, even over the macro. And then when you're riding and you're not on foil, you're just riding straight in the water, their straight rails are a little more efficient. They push less water. It allows you to pick up a little bit more speed on the water while the board's still down, so you'll lift off easier. And then again, when you're riding at speed and you do touch down, it's going to grab less water, so you'll hit and release easier. So I find the code is kind of more balanced out, you know, from the point when you're on your knees to when you're on your feet picking up speed, to when you break off from foil, and then when you do touch down, it releases a little bit better. And I think, Alex, you're saying like the code's got the cutaways and macro doesn't. That probably helps a little bit when you're releasing initially, but I think it's actually that rail outline that makes the biggest difference when you touch down. That really allows it to not stick at all. So
That's cool.
You know, I think initially when I saw, you know, the macro, I was like, this is a really good board. Like they did a really good job hit the market. It's like a little hesitant for improvements. You know, the code, they added some new sizes, which was nice. This is only 3 sizes.
Yeah.
And this had got a lot more volume sizes depending on exactly what you want. But then when I rode it, I was like, okay, wow, this is actually like
An improvement in design.
quite big of an improvement, yeah.
Well, that's good. And then I'm like 90 kilos, almost 195-ish, and I ride the 5.4 because I'm not that great at winging. Evan Netch would ride, I don't know, what's the smallest one they make?
58 liter. So I think something that's interesting too, we can talk about that's not talked about too much, is like, how do you pick the right size wingboard for like your weight? And something that's really awesome is that, you know, 1 kilogram, you know, 1 liter of volume floats 1 kilogram of weight. So if you know how much you weigh in kilograms, I'm about 76 kilograms.
Yeah.
So for me, that even point is about a 76 liter board, where it's just barely gonna float me statically. And obviously, saltwater, freshwater, a little bit of a difference.
Yeah.
If you're moving even 2 miles an hour, it makes a little bit of a difference. So I can kind of sort of float on like a 58, 60 liter board. It is challenging.
Yeah.
But I think for a good baseline for you to know is think about, okay, how much do I weigh in kilograms? And that's gonna kind of give you a rough estimate of where you need to be for the right size board and the amount of liters.
I think that's honestly, that's a really good, like, just standard.
Yeah.
I mean, you can always start, the more liters are going to make things easier, but as you progress, one of the things I've learned is I started off on a bigger board, but I wanted to go to a smaller board as fast as possible because you just get more out of a smaller board, especially in turning.
Yeah.
So that's a really good standard if we use that.
Yeah, I think you see that quickly, people sizing down, right? You definitely want to start with, you know, more liters than you need. So if I weigh 76 kilograms, you know, I'd probably want to start on, honestly, like that, like 98 liters.
Yeah.
That way I'm super nice, solid, and stable. But I'm pretty quickly going to outgrow that.
Yeah.
And then drop basically, you know, that 78 liter board is what I've seen has been kind of that key size for most people.
Yeah. Which is like the 5.0 code.
Which is the 5.0 code.
Yeah.
And then we've got a 5.2 that's 88, which is, I guess there's just less people that are that size.
Yeah, but that would probably be about almost me, because I'm almost 90 kilos. So
Right.
like, this is like a bit easier for me, but then the 5.2 would be like long-term, the board I would have,
Yeah.
at least.
And then there's a 68. And
Yeah.
68 is like what my dad is on, right?
Yeah.
And he's about my size. And so I think it is nice. It's like they've got a code on, you know, every 10 liter increments. So you can really just kind of pick your size, how much you weigh, average that in a little bit of the skill level
Yeah.
and kind of, you know, plug in and get that size that's, you know, kind of perfect for you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Evan, for talking about the boards. We have a 5.4 macro on demo here at the shop at Harris Island Surf Shop, and then we don't have a code on demo yet, but Evan lives right nearby and has lots of codes, so we just hit him up and he'll bring them on over. And then it's also Evan's equipment, so it doesn't matter what you do to it, it's fine.
Please
our
don't
our
mess it up,
macro
I like
be
it.
nice on, but Evan's just
Yeah,
whatever you
my 78 liter code's been pretty popular. I think some of your customers going for like a second board, right?
Yes, super popular. They're on like a 100-liter board or so, and then the 78-liter board seems to be like, for like people that are like 170 pounds, it seems to be like kind of like a primo size.
It's like that step down, like it's their
Yeah.
second board.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, awesome.
Cool.
Well, that is it, and let's go do some wing ding.
Ding dong.
Ding.